In this video, I would like to look at how basic functions in applied mathematics work as mirrored microcosmic expressions of conscious awareness. So let's look at how what's known as the Heaviside function and the delta function relate to how karma plays out in our daily lives. First, the Heaviside function from applied mathematics is used to model a sudden system change where a value switches on from 0 to any given point. So first it equals 0. Then at t of 0 it switches to be 1. Depending on the application, it could be 0, 1, or 1/2. And if we want it to switch at a certain time that's not exactly at 0, we have to shift the function. This causes the shift to happen at t rather than 0. So anything less than t is 0, and anything greater than 0 will be 1. So in this equation, f of t equals 5h of t minus 1. It will be 0 for t less than 1, but for t after 1, we will multiply by 5. Then, this is how we shift and scale the function. And we can also switch it to switching the system off. So before t, it equals 2, so nothing is going to happen. It will be 0 for t less than 2, and once it hits 2, it will be active. But the second Heaviside function is subtracted. So for t greater than 5, it is 0, and then the system turns off. So this mirrors the way manifestation and karma work, with certain events, be they good or bad, so what we would view as just luck or happenstance, it's based on certain subconscious patterns being activated or ignored, hence this system shifting from on to off. So once a certain threshold is hit, there will be some sort of manifestation of either what we would call good luck or bad luck, or this is like a divinely orchestrated threshold. So we also have the delta function, which represents the instantaneous moment of a transition. It is the derivative of the Heaviside function, so that's just a precise way of measuring change in the moment. It marks not just time, but it is a infinitely sharp impulse. Shown on a graph, this is represented by a infinitely skinny and tall peak at 0. This is analogous to the infinite present moment, where all possibilities of the timeline are glimpsed through like meditation due to our fragmented linear perception of time and self. Now there's also what are known as Fourier transformations. This Fourier transformation picks out what frequencies make up a signal. And there is a time domain and a space domain. This is how our bodies work and pick up signals. In the time domain, it's messy, but in the frequency domain, the signals are distinct. So the Fourier transformation compares the signal f of t to distinct frequencies. If a frequency is stronger in f of t, then the Fourier transformation of hat of omega is going to be larger. It measures the amount of frequency, the omega, in a signal. This is what our bodies are doing all the time. Our body is an antenna, and we're constantly picking up these signals and frequencies. And depending on how much of our subconscious trauma we've processed into conscious awareness, this increases our capacity to pick up on these signals as we increase our own capacity to meet ourselves where we're at. So we are collapsing dualistic thinking. as the distinction between conscious and subconscious, self and other collapses, which is what creates our perception of time. So too does this collapse of our perception of time increase our ability to pick up and process these certain frequencies, which we then see as like extrasensory perception or psychic powers or divine inspiration or divine insight. You're just picking up on more subtle frequencies as you're more attuned to it. So we'll look at an oscillatory function. This oscillatory function, which is just what makes up, light, sound, electricity, appears to be one signal when looking at it from a time domain. And written out, this is f of t equals the sine of omega 0 times t. So over 2 pi omega, this plot will repeat. But if you write it in its complex exponential form, and this is just to help combine both the amplitude and oscillation into one formula, we can see there are two different frequencies. This is written as e to the I omega 0t minus e to the negative I omega 0t over 2i. Our oscillating signal can be simplified to two peaks when looking at it through our frequency domain as opposed to time. This is a microcosm mirrored pattern of consciousness itself, with the f of hat in the middle being the present moment, and then the negative omega 0 and the positive omega 0 correspond to the past and the future. So as we return to the present moment of non-attachment, we are able to observe these two distinct frequencies that appear from one signal. So we're collapsing duality again. So the frequency domain, that mode of perception, is kind of like our default brain mode network. And we're riddled with anxiety about like the future and constantly planning because we're anticipating certain things to happen due to unaddressed trauma. We're still trying to cling to control from past influences, and this affects our instinctual reactions. So we can also look at an example of having two different signals. And when we plot this in the time domain, it's a bit harder to tell what the frequencies are, but we can simplify these more complex plots into 4 distinct peaks with the Fourier transformation. So these frequencies coming from two different signals. This would be the equivalent of your head wanting to do something versus your heart. So you're trying to reestablish control because it makes sense logically to do this or that as opposed to following your intuition. And it could also be viewed as you knowing what you need to do, but you're going to someone else for confirmation or something, and they're giving you information and it's creating a lot of noise. And you have to parse through what it is you actually want. So I hope you found this interesting. If you liked it, leave a like and a comment. It helps with engagement, depending on if I post this to TikTok or YouTube. And if you want to know more, I have a course on Teachable called Spirituality, The Science of Spirituality. If it's on YouTube, I'll have a link to it in the description, and I'll catch you in the next video. Yeah.